You're watching Inside Utah Politics.
Time now for a closer look at the big stories of the week with the Inside Utah Politics panel. This week we have State Senator Luz Escamilla and former Utah GOP Chair Thomas Wright. Great to have both of you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Glenn.
All right, it's election year. Season's campaign starting to kick in. Let's focus in on what could be one of the more local competitive races, that being Salt Lake County Mayor. Mayor Wilson hoping for another term. Riverton Mayor Trent Staggs stepping up to challenge her. Senator, let's start with you. Mayor Wilson has been in for 2 years. She took over after a special election. Has she done enough to convince voters of Salt Lake County she deserves a full 4 years?
Absolutely. I'm really excited for her re-election campaign, and she's been great. I mean, just the COVID-19 response, she's been very focused on helping areas in her own county, which is a large county, that were disproportionately being impacted. I've been able to work with her and her team. She has a she's not only committed herself, but a whole team. And I think they're doing well under the circumstances. This is a crazy year for her second year. And I think she's prepared, qualified, and ready to take for the next 4 years.
Thomas, let's talk about Mayor Staggs out of Riverton. He will be the Republican on the ticket in November. Tell us about what type of candidate he is and how you think this could play out for him.
Well, this is one of Utah's most exciting races, primarily because Salt Lake County has the second largest budget of any government agency in the state, just second only to the state's budget. I think it's about $1.4 billion now. So this is a really important race for the state of Utah, not just for residents of Salt Lake County. So this is definitely a race to watch because they are actually representing more constituents than any member of the United States House of Representatives. Because there's so many people in Salt Lake County. So there's a couple things that Trent Staggs brings to the race that I think are really important. Number one is he has local government experience. As you pointed out, Glenn, he's been the mayor of Riverton. So he has that local city government experience that will help him at the county level. Secondly, he's a successful business person. And we've seen Salt Lake County's budget grow 50% over the last several years. Because of that, I believe that there's incredible efficiencies to be had there. And when you bring a business person in that has private sector experience, they can find efficiencies. They can cut waste and they can get more and better services out of the money that we're already spending and maybe even cut the budget, which would be a huge thing for a lot of residents of Salt Lake County that are on fixed incomes and just simply can't afford these tax increases that we've seen under Mayor Wilson.
Senator, I'll let you address that tax issue as well, but also you brought up the COVID response. How much will that play on voters' minds come November? Because we saw Mayor Wilson come out early along with Mayor Mendenhall and really lock things down up front. So how much will that weigh on voters' minds?
I think a lot, Glenn, and the reality is Mayor Wilson was the first one to say mask up Utah. And she made it a mandate, and I know some people were upset, but we're now excited to see numbers below 400 cases a day because of Salt Lake County taking that initiative, and of course Salt Lake City following. So I think we want leaders that are responsible. That at that point she made a decision that was difficult, maybe not politically the most savvy decision, but it really paid off for the health of the Utahns and Salt Lake County residents. So I think people are going to re-elect her. I mean, she's well equipped, prepared. She has a lot of experience in local government as a former councilwoman, and I think she's doing a great job. So I think the mayor of Riverton may stay back in Riverton. It's a beautiful city, and welcome to continue working together with the mayor of Salt Lake County, which will be Jenny Wilson.
Thomas, Olympia Hills, this is coming from me and the way I saw it, a very controversial project. Mayor Wilson was in favor of that, signed off on it. And I think from what I saw, that's kind of what launched Trent into this race. Could that be another potential point where voters will really come out to the polls?
Oh, I think there's a lot of voters in Salt Lake County that will vote based on that issue. But I love that you're bringing up the affordable housing crisis that we have in the state of Utah, Glenn. I'm in the real estate industry in my business, and I have seen an explosion, as we all have, in the residential real estate market. And that's great for people that are in it, and that's great for sellers of real estate, but it's devastating for buyers. And I'm seeing more and more people, first-time buyers, that just can't get into this housing market. 19 offers on some properties, 75 showings one agent told me they had in 48 hours on one property. Yeah. And the prices are escalating at a rate that people aren't going to be able to afford to live here anymore. So we've got to have a serious conversation respecting local government, cities and municipalities, and their ability to determine what happens in their own backyard. but also step up with the leadership to talk about the not in my backyard mentality that so many of us have in the state of Utah. In other words, we know there's affordable housing crisis, but we don't want the affordable housing built in our own backyard. We want it in somebody else's.
Exactly. So is that an area where Mayor Staggs might have let out that could potentially hurt him in November then?
Well, I don't think so, because I think what he's advocating for, and he needs to answer that question himself, we believe in local government control. I do, and I think Mayor Staggs does too, but we've got to have leaders, county mayors, governors, that step up and say, we've got an affordable housing crisis in this state. We were 55,000 housing units short at the beginning of the year when I was in my race for governor. I don't even want to know what that number is now. It's a lot more than 55,000. It's scary to think about what it might be. So yes, we need to respect local government and their ability to make their own decisions, but we simultaneously need to have a bigger conversation with real leadership to encourage local municipalities to step up and lead on this issue, because we're falling further behind. It's devastating for our residents and our kids who won't be able to afford to stay here.
Yeah, no doubt about that. That really concerns me and all of us. I know. Senator, is it a problem though when you say, look, we have this issue, but don't bring it to my backyard?
Absolutely, and this has been an issue that I've been involved living on the west side, northwest quadrant of Salt Lake City, which of course, if you think about Salt Lake City and purchasing a property in Salt Lake City, even the west side is becoming, you're seeing gentrification now, right? So communities being pushed out because of affordability not being there. So I think the state has a role, and we've been, doing some work at the state level. We need to do more. So not only do we need to pass legislation that talks about affordable housing and how we move forward into preventing homelessness and affordability in housing, but putting our money where our mouth is. And I know we've struggled with the budget, and we need to keep in mind a recession is moving our way. And we're going to have to deal with this. I know the other panelist is very experienced in his previous campaign process of talking about the state budget. And that's going to be problematic for the communities and the municipalities when we have to support them and our budget continues to shrink, right? I mean, financially, we're going to be struggling. So more to do, but I agree that it needs to be a partnership between local government and state government, and we all need to be on the same page moving forward, and moving that not in my backyard away, because that's just not going to work.
And I appreciate what the senator's saying, because it's so important. I mean, she comes from an area where the affordable housing crisis is real. It's real all across the state in all 29 counties, even in the rural counties that I visited on my campaign. It's a huge problem. We're not just talking about a Salt Lake County issue or a Wasatch Front issue. We're talking about an issue in the state of Utah, and we need to work together. We need to reach across the aisle and talk about it, because I think we have differences of opinion on how we're going to solve the housing crisis, but we need to have a hard conversation about it, and we need to find common ground, and we need to step up and make it happen, because people are being priced out. It's devastating for our children. We have the highest suicide rate for kids aged 10 to 24. Yeah. And we just have so many issues that are directly related to housing. We need to make sure every family in Utah can afford housing.
When I look at what I bought my first house for in the Salt Lake Valley, compared to what I just bought my last one for, it's mind-blowing. I never thought we'd be to this point. So Thomas, to your point, what are some specific areas we can meet in the middle and address this issue?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, we have the not in my backyard mentality. We've addressed that. Secondly, we've talked about how I believe local government should determine their zoning ordinances and their local land usage policies. But we've got to encourage them to step up and to think outside the box. I shared one example in my race for governor. There's big box retailers on main arteries throughout the state. We don't use big box retailers like we once did. In the retail real estate market, we talk about businesses being Amazon proof. Or, are they going to survive with Amazon? We're not using big box retailers. We don't need these ginormous parking lots that you see with big box retailers. Could we give variances for those, to build some apartment buildings, to build more affordable housing by incentivizing developers to put some density in a place that they never thought was possible? Yeah. We don't need to clog our arteries. We need to do it thoughtfully, but we need to figure out a way to do this without government subsidies, without rent control, and without the things that we've seen fail in other blue states. We can figure out this problem with a free market approach. That's the Utah way, and I know it can be done.
I need to give the senator the last word here, the last 30 seconds. Your thoughts on what Thomas just said?
Yeah, I mean, I think we may agree to disagree on some of the areas. Bottom line, I think incentivizing, there is a role for government in making sure that we invite good players, good neighbors that want to create neighborhoods and communities, inviting all, and making sure that we're allowing all communities to grow together and families to be able to have a place to live.
All right. Boy, we could talk about this for hours. Thank you so much. Appreciate your insight. Thanks for being with us. And stay with us. We'll be right back with more Inside Utah Politics right after the break.